When I was a young lad, I used to live on Stanley Road in Shepherd's Bush. And every Saturday afternoon at about 6:30, we used to hear this sort of stuff coming from the end of the road. Classified results, classified results. And everyone used to go running to the end of the road, because what the classified results was, the man was coming around with the classified edition of the Evening Standard, which contained the football results from the matches which had been played throughout the British League and Scottish League. And this was a very exciting moment, because many people used to play on the pools, just as they do today. They bet on the results of football matches, and so people were hoping. And my dad was particularly enthusiastic. He very entertained with football. He loved football, and also he was always hoping to win a few pence on the pools. So I used to go down and buy the newspaper, the Evening Standard classified results, every Saturday afternoon. At about 6:30, should I say. Now, what's interesting, and this is the bit which we want to go on to, in that newspaper, which was available at 6:30, there were already photographs which had been taken roughly 2 hours earlier at a football match somewhere in the United Kingdom or in London or wherever. And so I wanted today to show you, explain to you how this was possible, and perhaps just recreate the story of how a photograph taken at a football match, they were usually, I think they had a deadline, it was at 4 o'clock, so they could get in the first 45 minutes of play, or 4:15 was the deadline, or 4 o'clock. The first half of the football match was available to be photographed. So the photographer would take the photograph, and by 6:30, that photograph was available in a printed edition of a newspaper. So how did that come around? That's what I'm going to try and achieve today, and recreate that sort of situation in our little home studio with Oscar. So the way it used to happen is, obviously, the photographer used to take the photograph. He had a film, and the film was then rushed off by a motorbiker to central London, somewhere in Fleet Street, where they had a photographic developer unit, photography unit. All newspapers had photography units. The film was developed. It was push processed to get it developed in a space of 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes, something like that. It was rapidly washed, then fixed, then dried in a drying cabinet. Then negatives were made, and the negatives directly, they then selected from the negatives, a contact print was made, a good photo was selected, and then that went on to make the plates, the lithographic plates, which we used for the newspaper. Now, I'm obviously not going to end up making plates today, but I will hopefully we'll end up with a product, with one actual photograph. Now, I just wanted to show you what these photographs look like, because I actually have some photographs from newspapers of that time. So just to give you an example, here is this is the Daily Express from Wednesday, the January the 18th, 1967. Now, I was 17 at that stage, but this shows you a typical photograph, black and white, taken. This was a football match between Queen's Park Rangers, QPR, and Birmingham City, and it was a sensational match because Stock stunners, as they say, because Alex Stock was the manager, and he and his team beat Birmingham away 4-1. But let's look at a photograph. I could bring it in just a little bit closer. That's a shot of Rodney Marsh heading a goal. Now, what's interesting from a photographic point of view, just look at the fantastic moment that's been caught in. That's been caught in a split second, and in those days they didn't have cameras with machines with films on. That was taken because the photographer had to know exactly when to push the button. So a remarkable result indeed, and it was photographs like that that used to be published in newspapers such as the Evening Standard classified results on a Saturday evening. But let me show you an even earlier photograph. Now, this photograph, these photographs I have here were published in the the Reynolds News, which was a newspaper that used to exist. It had quite an ancient tradition. It had gone from the middle of the 19th century, and it stopped being published, I think, in the late 60s. But since their sales were falling, they started publishing colour photographs of football teams every weekend, and that was an attempt to rescue their sales, and I'm sure it did for a while. At any rate, here I have, this is from May 1960, so this is one hell of a long time ago, to have had a newspaper since then. This newspaper is 60 years old, and I've had it since then, and as you see, it's the cup final souvenir for Wolves versus Blackburn. And the interesting thing is the photographs are taken in colour. Now, I'm sure you can see that the colours are slightly concocted, but that's not the point. It was certainly a step forward in technology, and it certainly served to generate interest in photography, in a photographic process, as it were colour photographs in newspapers. Now, on to what we're going to do today. I'm just going to put these away. They're rather precious, as you can imagine. They're quite old, these newspapers, so I therefore wanted to look after them. What I'm going to do just very quickly is to show you how it was possible for photographers to take photographs so rapidly, using what sort of equipment did they use, and so forth. Well, the first thing is, the photography developed throughout the 19th century and made very rapid progress at the beginning or the middle third of the 20th century, when a technique called miniature photography was developed. Now, miniature photography meant essentially you could take very, very small negatives which were on a plastic film and which was coated with the relevant silver compounds, and you could wind this film on a camera and you could take as many as 36 photographs on one camera, which is a lot. And I've got one of these films to show you. This type of film, here it is, it's an Ilford FP4+. You could still buy these today. Of course, and on this, I'll just very quickly pop it out for you to see. It comes like this, it's in a cassette, and we wind this film on inside the camera. And you can take actually 36 photos of this. And it's made out of plastic, and here you see is a film which I once took. It turned out completely useless. There's nothing on this film. That's why I kept it probably just as a souvenir, as a bit of plastic. But today I have an opportunity to show you. So that's how it looked. And there were 36 photos on this. Now, why did this miniature photography be able to be developed? Well, because of the development by organic chemists of plastics and polymers from the middle of the 19th century. Now, until that time, photographs were taken either on metal plates or on glass plates. And I have a photograph which I wanted to show you here, which was taken on a glass plate. It dates from about 1860, and I'm just going to show you the first thing to notice about it. It's stored in a beautiful box with a little hinge on it, with a little clip on there, and it's beautiful. There is a very, very soft padding inside here, and the whole point of this is it's leather. It's unbelievable, and it's a portrait. It's very poor quality indeed, and you could just about see a lady there in a sort of Victorian dress, a very poor quality image, and that would have taken a long time to take. It would have been an exposure for half a minute or a minute or something, and it would have cost a huge amount of money by those standards. So that's why this one photograph, you see, that would have then been preserved in the family archives, and of course eventually someone threw it away, and that's why I've got it to show you here. But you see, photographs were taken on glass plates, and I have here a box of glass plates which were manufactured by Ilford. These were rapid panchromatic, there were 10 of these plates in here, and you can see that there. Now, I have to tell you that a friend of mine who is a photographer, he told me he's actually bought himself a camera from the period of the early 20th century. Actually, it's in fact, it's mid-20th century. But he said he's going to be taking some photographs with glass plates. You can still do this technology. He said it's unbelievably expensive. And he said, by gum, he's going to take a lot of care with every photograph because of the expense. Now, onto the plastics. So glass was used and still can be used, but increasingly rarely. But the plastic films took over. Now, the reason why the plastic films took over is, I said, because of the development of organic materials which lended themselves to making plastic films. And an example of such a plastic film, from which photographic films were subsequently made, was called a celluloid film. In fact, the chemical name for it was nitrocellulose. And the reason why it was made was because nitrocellulose was very cheap to make because the main ingredient was cotton wool. And it would then be, once you've made your nitrocellulose, you could dissolve it in alcohol and then allow it to evaporate over a very large metal plate, and then the alcohol would evaporate and you'd end up with a very thin film of this celluloid type of material, and that was then coated in dark rooms with silver compounds and then cut into strips and put into cassettes, as I've just demonstrated. Now, that type of celluloid film, or it was cellulose film, that was very dangerous. And the reason why it was dangerous, because nitrocellulose is unbelievably flammable, and in fact it's used as an ingredient in high explosives. But nevertheless, for many decades it was the best plastic material available for making films. And I just wanted to show you how a film would have burnt had it caught fire. I have here a piece of the film which I've just shown you, which is a modern film. It's called a safety film. And allow me to show you. This one here, you see, this is Ilford film from about the 1950s. And what I want to ask you is, can you see the word safety on there? And the reason why it says safety, because there was a transition period over when they were still manufacturing films on a nitrocellulose base, and which were therefore potentially very flammable. And I have to tell you that there were many very serious fires caused by these films, because if such a film that was non-safety, if it caught fire, then you couldn't put the fire out, because the oxygen is actually inside the molecules of the nitrocellulose. So if you poured water on it, it still carried on burning. So they were utterly lethal when the fires occurred. I have a candle here, and I'm just going to show you how I have, as I said, here is a film which is a safety film, today's modern film, which was not going to do anything dramatic. And here is, I'm afraid I couldn't have any of the nitrocellulose film, but I've got a piece of nitrocellulose, and I will just hold this in the flame, and so you can see, compare for yourselves how they burn. Now I have here a metal plate in order that we can place the burning, because of course all plastics burn. If we just set this on fire, you'll notice it burns with a pretty foul, making a foul smoke. Oscar, could you please put the fume cupboard on? Thank you very much. And there you see, there is our flame burning away, and it's dripping, you see, dripping off. But that certainly, you wouldn't say that's going to suddenly cause a fire and do a lot of damage. So the next thing I wanted to show you now is a piece of nitrocellulose burning. This is the pure compound, virtually pure, and this is what the films were made from. So I'm just going to carefully hold this with my tongs like this and put it and notice the difference. So let's imagine this was a piece of nitrocellulose non-safety film. This is how it would have burnt. And as you see, almost instantaneously. And you can now understand why people were very, very keen to get rid of this and replace it with a more safe substance, a different type of burning. I'm now going to burn my candle out and put it to one side, and now we shall go over to what we're going to do today. I have here what's known as a medium format camera. This is a camera which takes rather large negatives. The film size is called 120, and I have such a film, the container for a film here. and it produces rather large negatives, as you will shortly see, and there are 12 photographs that you can take on each film. Now this camera here, it's called a Salute, it's a Russian camera, but it's based on the German cameras, the Hasselblads, which were the top of the range professional cameras, and they still fetch extremely good prices today. And incidentally, so this is a very, very fine camera indeed, with a very fine lens. There are no electrics on this whatsoever, so everything is mechanically operated. Now I have loaded a film into this camera, and I'm going to take some photographs of Oscar. We're going to simulate, we're going to pretend there's a football match going on. I'll take some photographs of Oscar, hopefully making some good saves as a goalkeeper, and then we will try and develop them. So let me just show you what is on the back of this camera is a magazine, and I've got such a magazine. This is a film magazine here, and just to show you how it works, there is a plate which you pull off like this. You see, that plate enables you to take the magazine out from the holder, and this is the magazine. And what you do is you put your film, you take out your film, which is on a spool like this, but obviously with film on, and you place it inside here, and then you wind the film on like this, having got it to go over the face which is exposed inside the camera. And then you obviously put this back in. You put this back in like that, close it off, and then put the light proofing metal plate over there. So that's the magazine, which is already loaded, and I've already put the film in. Now in here, we're inside. As I said, there are no electronics. There's no way of knowing how much light or what exposure, because I have to decide everything myself. You have the three main things to set. One is the shutter speed, one is the aperture, and the other is the focus. And everything has to be done manually, unlike today's cameras where everything happens automatically. But the great pleasure of a manual camera is actually you're in charge. You control exactly what you want. Now I have here a light meter. I'm going to use this light meter to measure the amount of light, and from that I will be able, it works on it's got a photoelectric cell in it, and I will very, very briefly explain how it works, and then we'll take some photos of Oscar. So Oscar, if you could now turn the camera around. Oscar's in charge of everything today, and he will now turn the camera around to give us an angle where we can see the camera and we can see him being photographed there. And then we shall start the procedure of recreating. Could we turn off the fume cupboard as well, please, Oscar? Thank you very much indeed. So we're just setting up now just to make sure that this can happen. So once Oscar is seated, I will then very carefully, he's got his football kit on because he does actually play as a goalkeeper he used to play for his school teams, he now plays at university as well, and he's going to pose as a goalkeeper, and we'll recreate some football sounds as well, because we have to give it a little bit of atmosphere, and I will photograph him while he's in the process of recreating a bit of football match. Sorry, we're just double checking that the camera is stable and that it's all in focus. So what we've got now is a light meter. So the principle is as follows. This is a Western Master 5. It's a high quality professional light meter, and the way it works is that you have a photosensitive cell there. And I'm just going to turn on the light, excuse me, because we have just a little bit of extra light there. We're short of light, as you know, it's inside, and I have got one studio light as well. So that's the photosensitive part there. And if it's very bright, then you have it set on there. And you see here, it's reading virtually nothing. I press the button in, and that gives us the red needle goes down. But if I open it up at the back, you now see we have a reading of approximately 8.5. And if I go up to the C ceiling, it goes up a bit higher because it's whiter there, and as I turn it down, then it goes down to about 7. So we have a reading of approximately 8. So what do we do with this reading of 8? Well, we've got a dial here, and that dial, we set it on 8, which you can hopefully see there. Then once you've got that light reading there set on 8, what you then do, that tells you what aperture you could use in conjunction with the speed of the aperture is how wide, how brightly the lens is, how much light is going in through the lens, and the shutter speed is how long you make your exposure for. So the reading we got was approximately 1/8 of a second at f8 or f11, something like that. We've got a 400 ASA film, by the way. The speed rating of the film is absolutely critical, and there you can see it will have 400 ASA or 227 DIN. It says HP5 plus with the 400 on there. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to double check. Oscar, thank you very much. Just look here. Oscar's going to look at me straight at the camera. I've now focused the camera by turning these rings around. It also tells you what the distance is. It's about 1.5 meters, which everyone can see is approximately correct. And we've set the aperture setting is done by, there's a ring here which has got clicks on it. So I've set it, I've got 1/8 of a second at f8. The film has got 12 exposures. I will vary them slightly, and I'm going to ask Oscar to, by the way, he's got a football, the best football we could find. I'm terribly sorry, it's the only one we had in the house, and this was given to Oscar about 8 years ago as at a charity ball, and it was signed, it says La Oscara, which means for Oscar, and it's signed by Jan Tomaszewski, a great Polish goalkeeper from the 1973 World Cup, 1974 World Cup. So this is the best ball, but we're going to pretend we're having a football game with it. So Oscar, could you please look at the camera now, just straight at the camera. Thank you very much. Could you now put on some side effects that we've got a football match going on, so we're now pretending we're in a stadium. Oscar, hold the ball up now. Okay, now just change it slightly, look at the V, okay, yeah, that's it. Pretend you made a save, get your gloves on. That's it, Oscar, good one. Good save, Oscar. There we are. Oscar, he's doing the football thing, yeah? That's it, good one, Oscar. I like this one. You look professional. Hey. So, Oscar's doing his great saves. I'm sorry it's not very agile, not very athletic, but he's certainly doing. That's it, under the armpit, Oscar, that's a very good one, Oscar. Do that one again. That's particularly good. I like it. Okay, so here we are. We're taking the photos. We're streaming along. Let me just do another one at an f5.6 just to make sure we get a good one here. I don't know if this has 12 photos. I'm not counting, but I'm sure I'll get one. I'm sure we'll get one. Final shot, I reckon this one, Oscar. Hold it, don't move around too much, Oscar. Thank you very much, Oscar. Right, so that's the end. So what we've now done, we've taken our 12 photos, we've pretended we've been at a football match somewhere on the ground. Will be absolutely perfect, Oscar. And now we're going to develop the film. So what's going to happen now is this. I've taken my photos. I said it's about 12. I wasn't counting because quite honestly, when you're at a football match, you get too excited to count and just get on and click away. And I'm now putting in my plate because there's a fail-safe mechanism here, which means that you cannot take the magazine out without this being in place. So we're now shoving this in position. We now slide, and we have now got this out of the camera. So what I now do, I can look in the back here, and I should be able to see, you probably won't see, but there's a bit of white there, which means some of the white backing paper is still there. So what I'm going to do now is to wind the film on. And that means we've definitely now wound the film in. So now what we do is we take off our backing plate here. And you see there's obviously no film because it's all wound in. We now undo our lock here, and here We are now, by the way, it's about 20 past 11, so we're just going to time this, see how fast we can get from here to a print. We're pretending now we're in our studio. The biker has delivered the film, and the film has been delivered, you see, and when you take it out of the cassette, you have a little strip of paper which you lick like that, and then that says HP 5+, and it's got exposed written on the bottom. You could just see the EXP, so that means you won't confuse this with a film which has not been exposed. And now this is where the fun begins, because I am now going to take this film, I'm going to develop the film, I'm going to rinse it, then I'm going to fix it, then I'm going to dry it. This will give me some negatives. From those negatives, I will then hope to make 1 or 2 prints so that we can see whether we can demonstrate this process for you. These are the processes which are used in making black and white photographs, and they were used by amateurs, by professionals, and they still continue to be used. So I'm showing you a technique which is somewhat outdated, but for the connoisseur, for the person who wants to have something just slightly with a difference, this is what they would be doing. Now, the way we develop the film, we have to have a light-proof box. This light-proof box is called the developing tank. And inside the developing tank, there is a spiral. Now, what I have to do, and this is going to be the really tricky bit, I have to take this film off here in total and utter darkness. So we're going to be completely switched off. Oscar's going to turn off all the lights, and I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that I can get this film on in a reasonably short space of time. I would hope to do it in half a minute or so, but it really does depend. I'm a little bit sweating and I'm a little bit nervous, so I will try and contain myself. The first thing we do is we rip off. Obviously, I sealed it just to show you the process, but there it is. Now, this is called the backing paper. And if I start unrolling it, that would be a disaster from our point of view now, because of course the film, which is separate and it's stuck to the backing paper, is inside. So what I'm going to do now, Oscar, could you please turn off all the lights now? Turn off all the lights. And I am now going to attempt to put this film on in pitch blackness. I've obviously done this several times before. Thank you very much. Oscar, are you sure that... Oh, let me turn off these lights. We've got the safe light on as well here. We've got... Now, is that everything off? No, there's still one more light to go off. Sorry, I've got these photographic... Oscar, could you just give me a bit of light? I can't see the switch for this. Can you just... Ah, thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, that's it. If I turn... Thank you so much, Oscar. Right, that's it. Let's switch off now. So everything is now off. So I'm now going. I'm now... Paper, I can now get... I'm not on the film. That was me ripping the film off. I've just ripped the film from... It's stuck on with a piece of sticky tape, and I've ripped it off, and I'm taking off a little bit of a sticky tape at the back. But I'm not going to bother with that. I'll go to the other end. Now this is the bit where I'm going to struggle a bit, because I now have to try and get this film onto the spiral. So I'm just going to pick the spiral up now. Here it is. I'm holding it to my chest closely. And now I'm going to try and feed it in. Sorry, I've got to feel there, I think I've got it. Okay. So now what I've got to do is to push it in. I will show you all of these, what you'll see later on when I've got the film out, if we get a result. I've got to push it in and then move it around. So excuse me while, as I'm still struggling a little bit, but usually once you get it in between the two, right, I had it there for a second, excuse me, just as I said. Struggling a little bit still, struggling a little bit. Szydlo, don't be nervous. I've got sticky. Maybe that's it. Let's just have a quick look. Yes, I think we're there. Yes, she's being fed in now. I've got to now, there's a, there's a brilliant mechanism. That's it, the film is now on. The film is now in, it's in the tank, it's in the tank. Right, let's just, on, lights on, we're off, Oscar, we're ready. Right, so there it is. The film is now in here. The film is now in here. This is totally light proof. So we're now going to go to the part of the important part, which is the development of the film. So Oscar, if you can follow me around with the camera now to the area where we're going to the sink, where I'm now going to put it in and pour. Oh, sorry, wrong place. I'm ahead of myself. We're going to go there in a second. I do apologise, Oscar. Here we've got our developer. I've already got the developer set out about 600 mils. This is ID11, by the way, and it's full strength. So you don't normally use it at full strength, but if you want to go the development to be fast, it's at 24 degrees centigrade, and I'm going to develop it for about 4.5 minutes. So here we go. I'm going to pour it in now. I'm going to, and we're going to time it together with Oscar, we hope. So the time now is coming up to 11, it's 11:29 and a half. So in goes our developer here. This is our developer, this is the full strength developer like this. And we now, for 4.5 minutes, we have to develop it. So let's say that was, yes, I think 11, the minute hand doesn't exactly correspond, but if you wouldn't mind kindly looking now. So what we now do is, with the developing process, is I'm not going to go into the chemistry apart from silver is involved, and we invert it. This is very, very important to keep it inverted. Now, while this development is going on, which is going to last for 4.5 minutes, I thought I might take the opportunity just to show you some of my own photographs which I have taken in the past. So what I'm going to do, we finish with the camera now, so we're going to move away the camera with the tripod, and I'll just show you some souvenirs, some photographs, because I've been taking photographs for many, many, many years, and I thought I would just literally show you one or two. Oscar, in about a minute. So this is just a photograph. This one I took in Chengdu in China in 1987. Now this was extremely difficult to take this photograph because I was cycling on a bicycle next to that lady, so I had to hold the camera in one hand and do the clicking as well. I can't remember whether I used delayed action or not, but that was an example, you see, of a photograph which I remember. I'm going to just invert this now, so sorry, I'm going to be going backwards and forwards. So that's an example of one photograph and how I took it. This is 1987. Now, I've done a lot of photographs of children and portraits, etc. And this one was taken at a friend's house in about 1970. And what I like about this is I just like things with nice compositions like that. So it's a sort of Victorian piano, nice girl playing with the music and the clock and everything. So that's just another type of photograph I like taking. Here you see is a portrait of a dog. Now that obviously it's quite frightening and to think, but this was taken in Orléans in France in 1976 when I went on a trip with a friend. Are we okay with the clock, Oscar? Don't have to do every minute I have to shake it. We're okay, thank you. So this dog, now I took it through the gratings and it's using a wide angle lens and it looks pretty gruesome. In fact, the dog, I came to no harm and nor did the dog either. Thank you. So we've just inverted it. Now just to show you, let's see what else we've got lined up here. This is another photograph from our China trip in 1987. What's interesting, very nice scene there with the lady, with the children. They were playing some sort of a game, but what's particularly interesting is you see we're so used to sitting on chairs everywhere, but in fact the way people have always sat is the way that the children are sitting here, like that, you see. So I'd find it very difficult now at my age to sit like that, but that honestly, in the history of the human race, that's how we have always sat. The chair is a modern invention. There we are. So that's a little bit of interesting. Have we got time for just one more, Oscar? So this is taken of young people. This is 1981 in Portobello Market, where I was asked to show people in Poland. They said, so Szydlo, what goes on? What do young people do? Can we have some punk haircuts or something? So I went to Shepherd's Bush Market, and it was Portobello Market, and brilliant. The young people said, fantastic. So I took loads of photos of them, and that was one of them. And how are we doing? We've still got another. Okay, so this, you see, that's Portobello Market, London, 1980. And here we have, this one. This is Spain, Toledo. And again, I always like photographs with the human touch in somewhere. And this, you see, a very nice photograph of a windmill and a young lad with his grandfather, I don't know, but I just like the way, and the beautifully clear sky with no clouds, etc. So that's a very nice souvenir from Spain, 1995. And this, you see here, we have two little kittens. Everyone loves photographing animals, I do especially. And this was taken, and notice again, composition is very important. So if you want the pussycats to look nice, you have a background which is clear, and where the pussycats stand out very nice. So these are two kittens taken in southern Poland in about 1980, something like that. Have we got time for another photo, Oscar? Yeah, time for one more. And here we have, and I'm sure you'll all recognise this. This, of course, is Hampstead Heath in London. It snows very seldom in London, and when it snows, by gum, everyone is out in the snow, and everyone's out with their cameras. And certainly, I love these scenes. And this is seen on Hampstead Heath, Parliament Hill. And what's particularly difficult about snow is getting the texture of the snow, and I've got that quite well here. And of course, when you have a dog running towards you, so much the merrier. Now, Oscar's giving me the signs up that we're ready. Now, have we finished developing? 4.5 minutes. Absolutely brilliant. So, Oscar, now we go to the sink. So we're now going to the sink. Please watch carefully as we now take our developing tank over to the sink. And what we're now going to do, we're going to rinse the film. We're going to get rid of the developer, pour it down the sink. So there's the water running there. And we pour all the developer straight out. Normally, we would actually use the developer again. But as I said, because we've done what's known as a push process, I'm going for speed rather than quality of the negative. The faster you develop a film, the more grainy the image is. So that's, but you know, when you're doing football stuff or press photography, you don't have to worry too much about huge enlargement. I've rinsed it a couple of times, and now the next thing we pour in this. This is rapid fixer, and I will explain. So we pour this in like this. And what this does, this removes the grey area of the film and leaves the image of the negative image. Let me just show you what I've used. So rapid fixer. This is the stuff I've just added. It's mainly ammonium thiosulfate, ammonium or sodium thiosulfate. The thiosulfates are very good. Ammonium is much more expensive, and it's used in these rapid fixers. And that it removes the stuff that got exposed. I'm not very good at this, I have to tell you, at the chemistry, but the film essentially, having gone in as a sort of pale grey, it's where it has not been exposed, it comes out absolutely crystal clear. I actually tested a bit of film just to make sure. So this, by now, you see, it's safe to open it now. It's safe to open it now, and even if it hasn't finished fixing, then there is no damage to the film by exposing it to light. So what I'm doing is, I'm now going to quickly have a quick butcher's, and you can see there it is. Yes, we have some images. This is amazing. Oscar, we're in business. I think we're going to be producing some photos very short time. Just give me a little stir around, keeping my fingers rinsed. This stuff, all by the way, it's all, if you're allergic, etc., you have to wear gloves. But I must confess, I've been doing this for about a long time, 50 years, and I've never had any issues. So we're now pouring off the fixer. We don't want to waste the fixer, so we pour it into our bottle here. So this is our reserve fixer supply. The rapid fixation has been done. We're now pouring our fixer into here so then that we don't lose that, you see. And now we replace the top on here, and clearly in this, always there in every darkroom, this is a photographic darkroom, there are two areas, a wet area and a dry area. Obviously we don't need to explain, but the important thing is you mustn't confuse the two. You mustn't get water or chemicals into the dry area where you've got electricity, where you've got optics. So that's why you notice where we have the fortunate situation of having this here. So we're now rinsing. Now normally you would rinse a film like this for about 10 minutes in running water. But as I said, today we're in a hurry, and the honest truth is it doesn't matter. We've got the chemicals on. And before we give it the final rinse, we add a tiny bit of wetting agent. Now wetting is basically soap solution, and that's just to make sure that you don't get any drying marks on the film. So I'm just going to put the rinse back out, literally a few drops of this. There we are, a few drops there. We now fill it with water, put this down here, and you'll notice it's all bubbled up. You see, nice, all bubbled up, and that means we've got a bit of a soapy solution in. We now swirl it around, pour it out like this, shake it off like this, and now, fingers crossed, this is always the moment of truth. This, have you done it or have you not done it? And there you see, there we see Oscar, the goalkeeper. Look at that, isn't that amazing? A fantastic set of negatives, just what the doctor ordered. Now let's have another very, very careful look. There they are, they've come out absolutely beautifully. Hopefully they'll be sharp as well. And now we go to the next process. We are in a hurry, so we're going to dry them. Please watch carefully. The way we dry them, in the professional world, you have drying cabinets. You hang these up, and I'm going to create my own drying cabinet. And the way we do this is as follows. We take the film and we hang it like this, you see, there. And then what we do is we have a clothespin just to weigh it down like that. Now obviously I've taken more photos than I need, but that doesn't matter. I've taken a few. The negatives are very good. And this is the drying process. What we're using today is just a hairdryer. Whoops, I'm handling it with wet hands, which isn't very bright. I'm sorry about that. Let's just dry this off. That's a pretty dumb thing to do, but there it is. And now I've got it set on maximum heat. I will just move this up and down. We move it up and down. Now this process will take a couple of minutes. So I say in advance that this doesn't happen instantly, but the honest truth is it is a couple of minutes. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to stop talking and get on with it. We're getting close. We're nearly there now. At least these few. We're not going to dry the whole film. Just, if you let me just hold it now. I'm drying my fingers as well, if you don't mind, because they're still wet. So make use of the hairdryer. Two uses. You see it's beginning to curl a little, but that doesn't matter. What I'm going to do is literally just to cut off the bottom few. But the photos really have come out incredibly well. I'm absolutely delighted. I hope we have a great shot of Oscar the goalkeeper. Let's just have a quick look. I can still see. Silly Billy, I've just realised that there's a faster switch there. So we're now accelerating. This is more like it. We're nearly there now. We're nearly there. And that's it. Let's call it quits there. I'm sure that's good enough. And what we now do is this. We're holding the bottom, and I'm literally just going to cut off these three. As I said, this is not an attempt to do everything, but it's to show you the principle. Now, I've cut off these three. They're pretty, let me just feel, they're pretty dry. There's a little bit of dampness, but they're perfectly good enough for making a print from. So what I'm now going to do is to take them over here and introduce you to the next piece of equipment, which is a photographic enlarger. Now this is an enlarger. You can make prints of small, large, also obviously small or large. It magnifies the image and it projects it. This is what we call a negative. We now have to make it into a positive. And the way we make it into a positive, we shine it through. This is like a projector. The image will come down here, and Oscar will be kindly showing you this as it happens. And we have photographic paper. Now this photographic paper which I'm using, it's called multigrade. I'm not going to go into the details of it, but essentially it's a resin coated paper. In the olden days, photographic papers were just made out of paper. So they were literally card in a sense of paper. There was no plastic or resin element. The reason why they started using resin coated papers in the late 1970s is because they are much easier to use and they dry much more rapidly, and the chemistry occurs much more rapidly on the surface of the paper. Normally, when we have a film like this, and can I just show you, once the film is made, we cut it up into, the negatives get cut up into strips like this, and we put them into a little negative, a storage file like that. And so that's there. And then from this, we can make something called a contact print. A contact print is where you put all of these negatives down, and you then shine a light through and you can see every single negative. Now obviously every single image, as I said, I don't have time to do that today, but I'm showing you the principle. But I just wanted to show you, because I do have I've kept all my contact sheets ever since 1968. So I just wanted to show you, bring this one up to you. This is, I photographed together with some friends. We used to sort of muck around and take photos of young ladies. And this is one of our friends here, and she was holding a butterfly. So we sort of told her to look interested and intrigued in the butterfly. And there you see, some of them are quite good, some of them are useless, but it doesn't matter. That's what the purpose of a contact sheet is, that it enables you to see exactly what the images are. And then you could, with a magnifying glass, you could sort out the detail, because to print all of these, of course, you just waste a lot of time and a lot of space and money. So that's a contact sheet. Now, I don't have, as I said, we haven't had time to make a contact sheet today, but I have got these negatives of Oscar, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to select one which I hope is a bit of a laugh. As I said, some of them are slightly out of focus because Oscar was moving a bit, but I think this one's very nice here. So what I'm now going to do is this. Oscar, I'm going to ask you if you kindly wouldn't mind switching off by the way, before we do so, let me show you. See, that's what the backing paper looks like from the film. So that's what I threw to the floor, and what I've taken out is hanging up there and drying now. So what I'm going to do now is put on my darkroom safe lights. There are two lights in here, they're both red, and you'll be able, and so everything will go very dark indeed once Oscar has switched off the main light, which is for which the switch is outside. And once he's done that, I will then show you how this enlarger works. So here it is. It's now, you'll get accustomed to red light. Obviously the quality of the image is going to be vastly inferior. And Oscar, if you could just, I'm going to now switch on. Thank you very much indeed. Oscar's undertaking something, he's taking care not to trip up. I've switched the light on inside this enlarger. There's a 150 watt traditional light bulb, and I'm now putting the negative in. So please watch it go in now. There it is. The negative has gone in like that, you see, and I'm now putting it down like this, and I'm focusing it. You could just about hopefully see that's what we call a negative image of Oscar. I'm moving it around. You could see the Fly Emirates bit there, and you can see he's clearly smiling. And I have to tell you also that I have focused it. So I have focused it beforehand just to save time. So the image, and I'm just going to be printing that little bit there for today's demonstration. So it'll be just Oscar's head and shoulders, and perhaps just a tiny bit of the football. Now, in order to make the print, we're very fortunate that we have an electric timer here. And what I do is, when I press the button, it's set on about 8 seconds. Watch carefully. When I press the button, you will see the light will come on. And there it is. So you see, and that will hold for about 8 seconds, which is what it's programmed for. So that should now go off. There we are. That was 8 seconds. And now we take our photographic paper. Where did I put the photographic paper, Oscar? Ah, here it is. Thank goodness for that. That would be terribly embarrassing if we started. And the photographic paper, needless to say, is stored in a black bag. Now, it's not sensitive to red light, so that's why we can use red lights. We can see what we're doing. I'm just going to... Always vital to put the paper back in the box. So there is our sheet of photographic paper. The size is 5 inches by 7 inches. We then place it on our frame, which I've drawn with black biro. We cover it with a glass plate. And now, because this is multigrade, we have to use special filters. Now, you can't see this at all, but I'm holding a bit of celluloid plastic there, which is a filter number 5, which should give us a fairly contrasty image. We hold that between the light and between the paper. We now press our... Et voila. And now you see Oscar is being exposed. There is light coming through, and it'll shortly go off. There we are. It's gone off now. Now, hopefully, as I now take this out, it's had 8 seconds. I don't know whether this is going to work because, as I said, I haven't done a trial with this negative. We now put it into the developer. Now, at this stage, I will move everything over in order that you can see things a little bit better. So this is developer, and hopefully the image will come out. Now, if it doesn't come out, not to worry, because sometimes it requires several attempts to get a result which is satisfactory. But you can already see, Oscar, let's have a look. This is unbelievable. Look, here it is. He's coming out. Oscar's coming out. There it is. There's a little bit of a white patch there. That's because the developer didn't go evenly. But I think we've got Oscar the goalkeeper. We may do another print. We may do another one just to improve. But let's have a look. I'm not sure what that white thing is there. It's possible that the developer didn't cover the paper evenly. But do you know what? I think this is going to be good enough, Oscar. I think this is absolutely brilliant. I'm sorry we haven't got the whole image and the whole football and everything. Yes, in fact, it's coming out perfectly now. Now, the developer is slightly alkaline. It contains hydroquinone. It's a reducing agent. And as I say, I don't know too much about the chemistry, but that's a portrait of Oscar the goalkeeper. We've now putting it into something which is called a wash bath. It contains a little bit of acetic acid. And now I'm going to do is to put it into fixer. Now, Oscar, at this stage, you could put the lights on. So we can have house lights on, please, Oscar. And we can now be safe that this full light's absolutely brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And here it is. It's not absolutely brilliant, but the honest truth is, in these conditions that we're working in, I think we've got an amazing result. So Oscar, look at that, beautifully pin sharp, and it's got the Arsenal logo. It's there we are indeed. So here it is then. We're now sending this off straight down to be processed. It'll be out on the newspapers, and the man will be shouting at the end of the road, classified results, classified results. Oscar Szydlo has done a great save.